So thank you very much for accepting to be interviewed, Lisa. I'm really happy to have you over and to ask you a few questions about money mindset, which I feel is really, really important, especially for female entrepreneurs. So to introduce you, Lisa works with female entrepreneurs who are on a passion-driven mission. She helps them tackle their money mindset problems because she's an expert in women, wealth, and impact, because obviously wealth is a big tool to help people make an impact. So Lisa, would you like to tell us, who you service and who your clients are and how you help them?
Sure. Well, thank you, Stephanie, for inviting me. I'm very happy to be here and talk to do this interview to help your clients and your community, because money is such an integrated topic in our lives. It affects us probably more than we even realize. It touches everything in our lives and our businesses. So I work with women who are on a passion-driven mission. And it's important that their relationship with money is empowered so that nothing is in the way for them to really put that message out there, to put their mission out there and grow it, so that they are also being richly rewarded for the work that they're doing. That's why I do what I do. And I have my own story around re-owning my own power around money. And it's just so important for me. I realize what a disempowered relationship feels like, looks like, how it affects your life and your business. And I want to make sure that other women can really own their personal power around money. It's been my journey to get my power back. And I want to make sure that other women can do the same.
Oh, that's great, Lisa. So this all started from your own experience with with mindset blocks. Wow.
Yeah.
So just to ask you, I probably a common question. Obviously we are aware of it, so we know that there are mindset blocks, and probably in different areas of life. But how does one actually understand that they have a money block? How does it happen in your life? What evidence can we see? How does it block us?
Well, we're dealing with money every day. I even read some research that on average, we have thought about something that has to do with money at least 100 times before lunch.
Wow.
Yes. I mean, everything from, should I take the bus to work or should I drive? Should I bring my lunch? Should I pack my lunch? Should I buy that birthday? How expensive of a birthday present should I buy for someone whose birthday is next week? I mean, it's incessant because it touches everything. Do I have enough money to pay the bills? It goes on and on and on. So when we talk about money blocks, actually what we're talking about is a reaction or resistance around the whole topic of money that keeps us from acting in a way that's in our best interest. That's really what a money block is. So, for example, we're talking about, let's talk about things that are typical for a female entrepreneur in their business. Things like having conversations with clients about fees. When you feel resistance in that whole topic and that conversation, there's something around your own energy and money coming up. Or if you have resistance in sending invoices, if you have resistance or fear or guilt, anything where there's like something holding you back, there's usually something underneath that we refer to then as a money block. If you're having resistance to raising your prices, resistance to having a difficult conversation with a supplier, all of these type of things are signaling some sort of, I do this a lot, noise and resistance in the whole topic of money or your relationship with money.
Wow, and this is something very common, I suppose. Yes, I can definitely think of a couple of things I've experienced, like, giving discounts without being asked to.
Exactly. Or exactly. Those types of things. Or, or that you are afraid or don't want to face what your numbers are every month.
Mm-hmm.
Or if you say, oh, I'm just going to give it all to my accountant and let him or her deal with it because it's not really my zone of genius. Now, that's really a trigger that you are giving away your money power.
Wow. Okay.
You don't have to understand it all, but can you feel what it is? It's like you're pushing the whole topic of money away from you. You don't have to do it, but you definitely need to feel like it's something to be involved in, or something that's you're part of understanding the money aspect of your business. So there are a lot of scenarios, especially for a woman in business, and that's why it's so essential that they have that you and I and everyone listening has a very healthy relationship with money.
Wow, well, this is turning into a clarity session for me.
Okay. Well,
so do you think it also extends to procrastination? You know, and sometimes you get maybe, I mean, obviously, in terms of especially content writing, when writing and maybe becoming more visible, I find that people have, you know, sometimes lack of motivation and procrastination kind of come into the picture. Do you think that that's related to money?
Well, sure, because we were talking about resistance, right?
Mm-hmm.
So anywhere there's resistance, you're resisting writing blogs, which is part of my topic. That's how I know Stephanie so much, because writing blogs is a little bit part of my resistance. So let's talk about that. The resistance is that I'm really going to put myself out there, and I'm really going to own my power around my message. And that's really, if you extrapolate that, when I own my power around my message, I'm going to put it out there. And then I hopefully am then going to have people come back to me and say, will you help me with that? It's almost as if you're afraid that the money's going to come back to you. This is kind of a deeper level. So procrastination is a little bit tough one, unless it specifically has to do with like, for example, procrastinating putting invoices out there, or procrastinating having conversations around money. Then people realize, okay, that's a money block. But actually, all resistance signals a form of a block, something that's causing friction in you taking action. It's always self-sabotage, and it's really important that you dive into why it's happening. Yeah.
Wow. That's great, Lisa. That's okay. So there are a lot of things that we can see in all these little symptoms, and I can definitely start mapping out my own at this stage.
Which is extremely important. Absolutely. Yeah.
But where do they actually come from? You know, is it connected to experiences? You know, where do you?
Yeah, it is. Well, actually, the blocks come from your belief system or their thoughts around money and yourself. And actually, we are really unaware of about 90% of the thoughts that we process. It's kind of weird, that you think, okay, there's like this computer program running in my brain, and I'm only aware of about 5% at most of what's really going on. So these blocks are stemming from the belief system that we've developed over time around money and around ourselves. And the beliefs come from things that we have experienced around money, things that we've seen, for example, as children, how our parents, that's why everybody talks about, well, what's your money story? How did your parents act around money? What did you, and this is definitely one of the things that I always work on with my clients because it's so informative. What did you see in terms of behavior of the people around you as a child, and through the course of your life? What did you hear about money? Did your parents say things to you like, oh, we don't have enough money, you really have to work hard for your money, or rich people are greedy, or the poor will inherit the earth? I mean, there are religious messages that people hear. So what you've seen, what you've heard, and oftentimes there can be some some specific situations that have really left an imprint on you through your life around money. And, you know, perhaps there was there was a big financial issue in your life at some point, or, and that can be a good thing, a positive thing, or a negative thing. I mean, I'm not saying that all beliefs around money are negative. It's just the ones that aren't so positive are the ones that we really need to look at, because they're the ones getting in the way. So all of these things, what you've seen, what you've heard, and what you've experienced, they contribute to your whole belief system and identity. I talk a lot about your wealth identity, your identity around money, because your belief system influences how you act. And that's where and through your actions is what is going to signal the money block. What do you do, or what do you not do that you wish you did?
Great. So you can see it, yes, and you can feel it, like you said, the resistance, you know, and I can really relate to that.
Yeah. And the emotions, you can feel the emotions.
Yes.
Money is a very emotional topic.
Always, absolutely. Definitely.
Yeah.
So I understand that, you know, it's just an interview, so probably we cannot go into too much depth. However, how do you think we can begin to overcome them? You know, is it a change in the way we think? Is it really by understanding where the blocks are? How do you begin on the healing process?
Sure. Well, the first thing is, like you mentioned at the beginning or just a few minutes ago, you said, "Oh, I'm getting a lot of clarity." Well, the first step is to really become aware of what your thoughts are around money. And I would recommend that everyone that's listening take at least the first step that I'm going to recommend, and that you write down for a whole week, if you can, all of your thoughts and feelings around money. Just, you know, take your journal, and anytime something happens, just check in and say, "Oh yeah, okay," and write down what you thought at the moment that you were procrastinating about making that sales call, or when you were, you know, doing all of this administration around your, you know, it's tax time, right? It's the beginning of the year. I don't know, it's tax time. So if you're doing all your taxes and things, that, you know, what are the thoughts that you're having while you're doing that? So really become aware of what the thoughts are. And also really pay attention to any emotions that come up. Frustration, anger, maybe fear. A big one, and these are a little bit more deeper emotions, but guilt and shame. If you really if you recognize feelings of guilt and shame, that's a huge trigger that something needs some more attention. So, or a signal that something needs some more attention. So once you start recognizing these, that's definitely the first step. Because what you want to do is you want to understand after that the specific, when you identify the thoughts, then you want to say, okay, why do I have that thought? Where does that thought or belief come from? And hopefully you might be able to come up with a specific situation where that thought came from. And then you can take a good look at it and say, well, that thought isn't helping me anymore. And you can turn it around. And a lot of people, if you've done any neuro-linguistic programming, I've done a lot of it, and I coach my clients through a lot of mindset around money, and energy work around money. You can turn your thought process around, and that's really important. It's important and a lot of times you can do it yourself. You can meditate and you can let your thought process go. But maybe we're taking this a little bit too far.
Wow, no, but it's very interesting to see how far you can take it. Obviously, different people would probably approach introspection in a different way. So
Sure. It's just a matter, that's why awareness is so important first. Just recognizing what brings up, what money brings up for you, so that you can work on it.
Wow.
Yeah.
And of course, it's probably a little bit early to ask you, but I think it's the right stage, because I feel that maybe, and maybe I'm talking about myself here. I'm sure a few of the people watching us would feel the same. It's probably quite difficult, I imagine, to really totally understand your own feelings and maybe connect them. Is this something you can actually help with? The initial.
Yes, that's what I mean. I coach people on all aspects of money, the practical part, but also the mental and the also even a little bit the spiritual part. And so in the mindset part, we definitely dive into making that connection between the behavior and the thoughts and the beliefs and the emotions around money, so that we can work with them. A lot of people are quite used to just ignoring whatever their thoughts and emotions are around a topic. That and I personally know that I became an expert in that for a very long time. just signals of that are thinking, oh well, I'll deal with that later. or just
Yeah.
or just sticking your head in the sand and saying, well, I just can't deal with that now. Those are symptoms of that there's something else underneath that's really, that you really kind of need to look at. And it's not therapy, it's just taking care of your emotional relationship with yourself and with money. That's all it is. And it can be confronting. It can be.
That's great. It's really nice to know that we can get help if we're not quite sure. And of course, one of the main reasons is because most of the people watching are actually entrepreneurs. So they're women with their own businesses.
Yeah.
Maybe more than one business, or just starting out. It's a big range. But of course, money problems, mindset problems are going to get in the way with growth, perhaps, or maybe with our choices sometimes. How do you feel it affects the health of a business? Have you seen people change?
Yes, absolutely. When you have resistance and you're reluctant to take action, you're actually sabotaging the growth of your business. So, for example, I worked with a woman who was really hesitant to raise her prices. Okay. And what's interesting is that when you're hesitant to raise your prices, because so you can imagine, if you don't raise your prices, then your business is going to hit a ceiling at some point in terms of the financial revenue that it can create, especially if you're a service-based entrepreneur. And which I think a lot of us are. I mean, I think a lot of your clients are also. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So if you're reluctant to raise your prices, it means actually that you're reluctant to own the value of your service and product. And a lot of times, entrepreneurs or female entrepreneurs, they have this integrated idea that their product or service is part of themselves, and when it's actually something separate. And so any lack of self-esteem that might get triggered when you try to raise your price is going to come, is going to just pop up and start screaming at you. All of your limiting beliefs, I do this a lot, all your limiting beliefs and all your little inner critic voices are going to come up and say, who are you? Who do you think you are to raise your prices? And there's a whole process of really owning your price, of owning the price and owning the value that's essential. For example, just around the topic of pricing. So yeah, so I worked with this woman, and we worked on what this belief system was underneath. We worked also on, you know, there's three aspects to owning your price. And the first, you know, and it's trust, it's accessibility, and it's the ability to disassociate yourself from your service. Those are three really important things. You can dive into those if you want to in a minute. But what I first want to say is that when she understood the limiting beliefs about her own self-worth, and she could transform those, then she could really own the new price. And it was phenomenal to see. You know, we worked for several sessions, and she was giving me feedback. Oh, I feel so much better, and I've got these prices. And then I saw her like 3 months later, and I thought, my goodness, are you the same woman? Is this the same business? She had just, I mean, not that I'm surprised, because I'm not, but it was just beautiful to see. It was as if she had really let go of what was in the way of her owning her power around money.
Wow.
But money is just the reflection of her not standing in her own personal power.
In her own way. I like the way you talked about disassociating yourself from your service, which is of course very difficult when you are the face of your business and you're the one giving the service.
Yes, it is.
Wow. So how do you tackle that sort of thing? You know, it's
well, why don't we walk through all three of them, right? Why don't we walk through, in order to really own your price, or to, you know, people, there's a whole lot out there where people say you need to own your value as an entrepreneur. You need to own your value as an entrepreneur. Well, you, Stephanie, and me, and everyone listening, we are priceless. We can't put, there's no value. I mean, you can't put a price tag on how much value does Stephanie have. That's not, well, and that's the problem. We get mixed up in our value as a person versus our value of our service or product, or a product service. I mean, a service that's packaged as a product. So the first thing that you need to really own is really, what is the result of the service that I can provide? And do I really know? So the first thing is the trust and the knowing that I can deliver the result that I promise. When you know that, without beyond a shadow of a doubt, you know, you've done it, you've delivered it, you've got clients that are happy, you've got the testimonials, you've got the backstories, you know, you can really own it. You know, that gives you a sense, that builds your self-esteem. And that doesn't have necessarily anything to do with you as a person, but you just know that, you know, when you're just starting out with a service, that's where the insecurity comes, because you don't know that it's going to deliver yet.
That's right.
So the way to solve that is to do it, is to deliver it. And maybe, you know, your price point is lower when you first start to deliver it, but once you know, and you can demonstrate, and you feel confident about the value, then you can raise your price. Because you know you can deliver and you can own it better. Well, that's the first one. That's the trust in the delivery. The second thing is whether or not you can attract and find the clients that have a real problem. And this is where your part comes in. This is your territory, Stephanie. That you can attract and find the clients that have the problem, the acute problem, right? That you know you can solve right now, and that you can communicate to them, and that you can find them. Because if you know you can find them, and you know they have that problem, they're going to really want you to solve it. So the price a lot of times is irrelevant. They just want you to solve the problem.
Indeed.
Especially if it's a problem that has a high cost to the client. Financial cost, emotional cost.
Yes,
so that's a conversation, or it's something that you need to know that you can tackle. Yes, I can. If this person has this big problem, and it's a very big problem for them, then I can solve it. So my price can be higher. And the third part is the part that we were just talking about. The disassociate. You have to understand that your service is not you. So that when someone says no, they're not saying no to you. They're basically just saying, or they're saying one of two things. They're giving you the reflection of those two first things. No, you haven't proven to me that you can really deliver. Or maybe they're not even clear enough on what it is that you're actually doing. You're not clear enough on the result, and you haven't proved to me that you can really solve it. Or two, the problem's not that big for me right now. It's not big enough for me to solve right now. That's why they're saying no. You need to be able to understand that that's not you as a person.
That's right. And there's always going to be a percentage of no's.
Always.
Nobody
Always.
gets 100% yes. What perhaps it's a difficult trap that I've seen a lot of people get into, where you feel like you need to charge what you think the client will pay, instead of, like you said, getting into the mindset of actually stating your value for that type of client and then finding the right kind of client. It sounds so natural, and yet a lot of us start off doing it the other way around.
Well, I think the part that we forget, and I'll be honest, recently I did a series of interviews with a new target client, and part of the interview series was to ask them, because I'm also repackaging products and services and price points for a new target audience with a higher price point. And one of the questions that I was asking them is, what's really the problem that you have, and what is it really costing you? And I think that a lot of service delivery, I hadn't done enough of that work before, enough of asking those kind of questions before, and certainly not to this target group. So I was making all kind of assumptions that weren't true. I was making all kind of assumptions that would have led me to think that the price couldn't be as high as it is going to be, because the problem is there. For example, people think that when you have a lot of money, all of your money mindset problems go away. Well, they don't. I personally know that for a fact. I mean, I've been there, done that. When you have money, it does not necessarily mean that your money mindset issues go away. So, okay, sorry, I kind of got a little bit off on a tangent there, but what I was trying to say was, make sure that you really understand the value of of solving the problem for your client. That's how you should set your price.
That's great, because of course, like you said, then by looking for new kind of client brackets or client levels, then you can work yourself a path where you're increasing your prices over time.
Yes.
And that is, of course, the ideal situation for any business that wants to grow.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much, Lisa. You have really given us an in-depth look at how to go through this journey. What I'd like to do is, I would like to invite everyone to try your journaling week. I really like the idea of writing down everything you feel about money for a whole week.
Yes.
And then perhaps taking it a little bit of a step further from what you said, to maybe try and think at what this is actually costing our business and costing us personally. And then perhaps we can start following you, Lisa. So do you want to tell us where we can find you online?
Absolutely. Well, you can, the best place to find me at the moment is on Facebook. You can follow me on Facebook, but you can also download I've created an easy to use journal for you to track your thoughts and feelings around money for an entire week. So you can download that. It'll make it easier, and you can follow me there. I go on Facebook Live almost every week to share tips and ideas and stories and ways that you can really own your personal power around money. So you can follow me there on Facebook.
That's brilliant, Lisa. Thank you so much. I'll be asking you for the links, and we can post them on the blog post and also under the video.
Perfect.
And we'll make sure everybody that watches the video can get hold of your links.
Super.
That's it. Thank you so much, Lisa.
Thank you so much for having me, Stephanie.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.